Today on Locked On Texas Tech, looking for a bounce back courtesy of the Baptists in Waco, and also a college football conversation to determine the fate of the college sports universe. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more, and new customers right now, if you join today, you're getting $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you, my man, as we are looking ahead to another opportunity for Texas Tech. I'm choosing to use the word opportunity instead of challenge, although they are kind of interchangeable, I guess, with this matchup. The Red Raiders are on the road from Waco as they look to avoid a 3-game skid, but does not get any easier. No rest for the weary in the Big 12 Conference. But I got to say, and this is not necessarily per net rankings or anything like that, but some of the most impressive or impactful wins so far for Grant McCasland this year have come away from United Supermarkets Arena. You've had some nice ones at home as well, but hoping they can find that Road Warrior recipe and get to cooking once again tonight, man. It's not going to be easy at all.
Yeah, and obviously this brand new arena that Baylor's got, they do finally have a home court advantage, I think, with their fans and all that. I'm curious to see kind of step foot in there and see kind of what it looks like in person. By all accounts, other than the camera angle, which is gotten a lot of criticism, everybody says the new arena is awesome, but I just think it gives them a much more of a home court advantage than the Farrell Center did, which was old and older and all that, and it's seen certainly better days. And they've kind of downsized the way they've built it. The fans are right on top of you. And, you mentioned trying to avoid a 3-game losing streak. Well, that's, Baylor's just coming off of one of those. They had dropped 3 in a row, and I think this is, most people are going to point to probably a Houston or a Kansas maybe as far as winning the league. If you were to bet on a horse, I mean, if you wanted to, be smart, this wouldn't be a bad bet to make on the Baylor horse. Not that anybody's looking to bet on Baylor, but I mean, my point is I like their pieces. They're playing. This is a younger roster compared to most in the Big 12, but the upside of this roster is off the charts good, because you go look up at some mock drafts, and you'll see one of Baylor's freshmen, Jacoby Walter, who starts he's kind of a combo guard, small forward type, 6'5", out of McKinney. I mean, he's a lottery pick. He's a one and done. I've seen him as high as 3rd or 8th, depending on where you look. And then Yev Misi, their big kid from Cameroon, who's all of 7 foot, and big guy. He's 19 years old, and he's on some first round mock drafts too. These are freshmen, so as they kind of figure this league out and deal with some of the trials and tribulations of what the Big 12 tosses at you, they're also getting better and starting to figure it out, and probably not anywhere near, playing their best and on all those things. Point being, this is a work in progress. And Baylor, by the end of this deal, I mean, because last year Baylor started out Big 12 play at 0-3, and I think everybody buried them. Okay, don't have to worry about the Bears at all anymore the rest of this year. They're done. Well, they went from 0-3 start in the Big 12 Conference to being the 9th overall seed in the NCAA tournament. So which they were a 2 or a 3 seed in the NCAA's, but they were the overall number 9 seed after starting out 0-3. So losing streak's part of this league. But anyway, you got your hands full tonight, I guess, as I wrap up my thoughts there. They just send guards at you in waves. They shoot. They're number 1 in the country in 3-point percentage, average about 84 points a game, and they shoot 3-pointers as a team at about 41%. which that's what Chance McMillan is doing for you. But they've got like 3 or 4 of these dudes that are doing the same thing.
Is there anything you think applicable from some prior Big 12 meetings that Texas Tech can take into this one? I know statistically maybe there's some similar things. We saw a good shooting three-point team in BYU previously, but I'm just wondering, are there things done in a similar way, or is this going to be kind of a unique matchup? Because it seems like every game we've rolled into recently, it's like, well, this one's going to do you this way. This one's going to try to do you that way, all sort of a little bit differently.
It's a great question, the way you're phrasing that. Yeah, Baylor, they play. Well, here's the weird thing. They play at a slower pace than a lot of teams. However, they're averaging 84 points a game, which is like top 20 in the country as far as offense. The best way to describe them is they're extremely efficient. So, like when they do get a shot, they knock them down, or they get a high percentage shot, but they're not trying to beat you necessarily in a track meet. They just are very much, they're very efficient, and they'll mix in a lot of zone. See, so that's unique. You haven't seen a lot of zone defenses. A lot of, they'll play like a 1-1-3. They'll play like their matchup zone, but they switch defenses all the time. But lately they've been showing a lot of zone, and it's hard for me to compare that to anything that you've seen because you haven't seen a lot of zone. But it causes problems for teams. Now, there are some spots open on the floor to get shots off from if they are in one of these zones. And, I mean, I think you would have invited a zone defense on Saturday versus Cincinnati. Like, please try to zone us up. Let us shoot. Dadgummit. Let us get some shots off. So it is very much, and again, I think the youth of their roster, the fact there's some zone, I don't know if I can give you like a good comparison based on what we've seen. But the word I would use is they're just extremely efficient. They shoot free throws at a high rate. Like they on average go like 16 to 22 at the free throw line, 9 of 22 on average behind the arc. And the percentages are just like it's a bit daunting. And they go about 9 deep. They've got a lot of size. They send guards at you waves. This is because like when you played Oklahoma, I look at the individual pieces and I'm like, there's not really anybody over there that I would be just dying to have, make a trade for, wish he was playing for me, okay? Cincinnati, oh, yeah, you had some dudes. I'd be like, yeah, can we make a trade for Aziz Bendango, maybe a Lukosius that went for 16, all that. There's a variety of guys on this team that I would say, ooh, I'd like to have him playing for me. He would make you worlds better, or, boy, you need more of this or a little of that. And I hate to say that about like Baylor, because I'm not necessarily a fan of the Bears and all that, but I'm just just purely basketball here. That's the way I see it.
Has recruited as well as anyone really in the country, certainly in the Big 12 conference for a long period of time now. Here's my thing for Baylor. Here's my request. You know what you got coming up next? Trip to Lawrence, Kansas. Go ahead and look ahead. Don't be worrying about little old Texas Tech. We lost 2 in a row. What are we going to do to you? Go ahead and get focused on the Jayhawks, Allen Fieldhouse. Don't worry about what's happening tonight. It's just little old Texas Tech, 2 in a row. Come on. Go ahead and look ahead. I'm sure Scott Drew and company haven't mentioned anything like that as the Red Raiders come to town.
Well, and Cowan, I think because it's like you look at it, my guess is going to be, you're going to be somewhere between a 4 to a 6 point underdog tonight, maybe closer to 6 than to 4. Maybe 6.5. I don't know. That would be my guess. And we'll see if I'm right. But what Grant really talked about after the game the other day was this, and I think this is a message that he really wanted, because he wasn't just fiery, really frustrated at his team for losing that game, and I think here's why. Yeah. He knows the league is brutal. You are not okay with losing a home game, especially. I think he knew his team was sick. There's some guys that are dinged up. You're squeezing everything you can out of them. But he also knows the league is a monster. Okay, meat grinder. Use your phrase there. But it's how you bounce back from a 2-game losing streak or potentially a 3-game losing streak, whatever it be. What do you glean from it? How do you learn? How do you move forward and progress? Do you let it turn into a 4, 5, 6 gamer, Or do you bounce back and fight and learn from it and say, we are toughened, we are hardened, because there's just not another league in the country that is throwing the punches that this league is at you on a nightly basis. It has to be making us better, regardless of the fact that we didn't get a result. And so I'm kind of curious, the kind of fight that because you're going into a Hornets Nest tonight. I mean, it's going to be sold out. It's going to be packed. It's a late tip, the whole deal. You could be undermanned depending on if Lamar's back and healthy or not. All those things, and you're going to have to shoot it really, really well, and match what Baylor can do. But but it also makes for one hell of an opportunity, man. Because you want to make some news and feel good about yourself, you'll get this one tonight. Nobody will be talking about the Cincinnati loss ever again. I can assure you of that.
Well, and that, I guess, is kind of my point in mentioning what I did about the success you've had on the road already. Why does this have to be so frightening? Starting off Big 12 play in Austin, at the time, top 15 team in Norman, Oklahoma. And I guess whenever you pack a smaller crowd into a smaller building, that's where you're generating some of the environment that you're talking about. Like, they finally have a home environment. It kind of reminds me of my old stomping grounds in Littlefield, Texas, America. When I was there hooping, we played in a cinder block box we called the litter box. And I don't know how many was in there. It's like 15, 20 of your closest personal friends and enemies. They built a brand new palace of a gym afterwards. And I could only hear from the guys that played after me, it was never the same. So I guess you'll have some of that vibe, I guess. But, I mean, Waco was never a place, even when they're in back-to-back Elite Eights a decade ago or whatever it was for them, a basketball program that was rolling. They were never a place that you looked at as having any type of great environment. You went down there and beat them when they're number one in the nation. Adonis Arms turned the Meyer kids' head into a canoe. One of the greatest tomahawk highlights of all time. Shout out to Adonis Arms for that sweet memory. But I don't know why. And this was, if I'm in Grant McCaslin's shoes or his coach's shoes, I think this is what I am really hammering leading up to the game. Are these guys going to be more frothing at the mouth than they were in Austin? Where Rodney Terry wanted you to mind your P's and Q's and make sure everybody was saying, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. Let's class first, boys. Or in Norman, Oklahoma, when, again, they were top 15 at that time. Maybe just a good talking point, and that's not meant to, disrespect Baylor in any way, maybe a little bit of a way. Anyway, it's more so to remind this team, well, you've already gone and done this when you were an underdog or when someone didn't expect you to do these things. And I think it's a great point you mentioned, maybe lost on some. Baylor with a 3-game losing streak not too long ago in their rear view. And it wasn't against the creme de la creme of the conference. I think Texas was a part of it. Texas Christian was a part of it. Anyway, I mean, there's reason to keep hope alive, especially coming off of what you've just come from. So I hope that they will take it to heart in that kind of way. I'm also curious, Chris, about Grant McCaslin's feelings. He's got some Baylor roots and maybe a little extra motivation. I know it's not all that recent, but what do you think about that part of it? First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and happy Super Bowl week to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And FanDuel has more ways than you can count for you to end this season with a dub, or maybe 2 or 3 or 4, not 5, not 6. Not only can you bet on who's going to win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which player will score the first touchdown, how many points are going to be scored, and so much more. National anthem action? That do anything for you? Check it out at FanDuel.com. New customers also joining today, and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. All you got to do, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
One, I wonder, because where I guess I'm coming from on it is how much gas do you have in the tank right now? That's that part of that concerns me. And I do think Baylor their new gym, the Farrell Center, everybody's kind of removed from you a bit. The way they've built it here, the students are literally just right next to you, right on top of you. I'll be dealing with a lot of the lovely Baylor faithful, the Sick'em Bear folk, right next to me. Tomorrow or tonight.
Watch your elbows.
Yeah, that's right.
Watch your elbows
tonight at the Foster's Pavilion. Foster's Waco for beer. Right. I was gonna drop that line on it again. Yeah, and I've thought about the Grant part. He played there. He coached with Coach Drew there for 5 seasons. And, there was maybe some attempts to hire one of Scott's assistants when he was putting his staff together, and Coach Jenkins and all those things. And so I don't really, I'm sure that it's all, these guys are going to try to beat each other's brains in. That it's just competitors that they are. But I'd be willing to bet you, yeah, this is kind of like Joey going back there too, a bit, and maybe even more so, because Joey didn't play at Baylor. I mean, he wasn't there as long as Grant was. I mean, all the things. So I think that'll certainly be an interesting, sidebar tonight too. Just I'll kind of see if there's anything extra there. But there's a lot of mutual respect. I mean, like a lot of folks on your side of things spent time in Waco too, so it won't be just Grant, but yeah, a lot of mutual relationships there certainly. I would think tonight
maybe not like some acrimonious type of competitive fire, but just really wanting to beat someone that you spent a lot of time with, coaching, strategizing, and playing basketball with and or for. From a Texas Tech perspective, Chris, the bounce back effort, I think always kind of easy to assume has to start with a guy like Pop Isaacs. But when you're considering some of these other Red Raiders that you really like to see either be effective or maybe you feel like could have some opportunity within this matchup, is there anybody that stands out to you?
Well, man, I feel like I'm going to keep saying this, but Joe's he's got to give you more, and maybe we're asking him to do more than what he's capable of giving you at this point, based on his energy level and based on the competition he's seeing and the waves of defenders that he's getting nightly. But it's like Pop's averaging 20 points a game in conference play, and Joe is your second leading scorer on the season, but he's just got to give you more offensively or be more of a threat offensively, whether it's as a scorer or facilitator, just to take some pressure off, I think. And yeah, like, Kurt, I mean, you've got 6 dudes. That's what you're dealing with right now. And I don't know if we're to the point, we talked about it yesterday's show. I don't know if you're at the point where you can – like count on like some crazy night from Robert Jennings all the time, he needs to do that a lot more before we go, okay, start to be more consistent. But Joe's the one that's going to have the ball in his hands the most. He's the one that can affect the game the most, positively or negatively. And I just think, because if he plays well, because go back to the Norman game, the game in Norman. I mean, he scored some. He was he had some runouts. He had like 3 or 4 steals, I think, in that game, and you win. I think direct correlation in that. He doesn't play well versus TCU, you lose. He doesn't play well. That's not necessarily fair, but it's like kind of quarterback-esque.
Yeah, that
just kind of comes with the responsibility of being a point guard, lead guard, or whatever. And Pop and he share that. But I mean, I think Pop's been pretty consistent here. And so that's why I just say Joe can kind of take this thing here, or it could go there, depending on, what kind of game he's had. And again, that's not necessarily fair, because I love the kid. He's tough. He's given you all he's got. I just wonder if maybe we're guilty of trying to, hey, dude, we need more from you. Coach, man, this is all I've got to give you. Maybe that's where we're at. I don't know.
That's what we were saying maybe a month ago. Yep. Like, I'm pretty sure he is emptying his bucket every time out.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And we need you to do it again. I mean, hey, that's just life in the real world, I suppose. And by the way, speaking of fans in close proximity to Chris Level's personal space, that reminds me, I owe you an apology from several years back. Home game at United Supermarkets Arena. Had a cousin and some buddies who had tickets right behind you. Pre-game, sending me a shot of the back of your head. Hey, look who I'm close to. I'm like, yeah, it's a special moment for any Texas Tech fan to be right there near Chris Level. Then later on in the game, he says, dude, I think I might have made Level mad. I think he might have dropped an armpit on top of your head trying to reach across for a T-shirt in an over-exuberant effort or something like that. So I don't know if you remember it, but on behalf of my family, I do apologize for messing up your hair that night. I did give him a stern talking to. Okay.
I don't remember it, and I'm all for as much chaos in that building as possible.
I think it was the T-shirt cannon's fault. They didn't even make it to the first row or whatever, and he just got a little over-exuberant. But that runs pretty common in our family. Okay, let's hold on tight now, because we're going to make a hard left and steer away from hoops to a sizable happening this week. First, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. And eBay Motors has you covered with everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride on the road. Or if you're just looking to elevate your car's game to the next level of performance, they got what you're looking for with roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, superchargers, and accessories of all kinds to fit your style. Whether you're looking for speed, power, or design, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to perfectly fit what you need. So just head over today to ebay.com/motors, where you're going to always find exactly what you're looking for, and with no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die ride on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions do apply. Chris, this will not be the final time that we're going to be talking about these things this week, I'm sure. And we're just going to kind of set the table here today because you may not be paying attention to all the maneuvering that's happening elsewhere in the college sports world away from Texas Tech basketball. But there is significant effects that are going to be coming out of some conversations happening this week. There are college football playoff conversations happening. And as you see there on the screen, there's a Big Ten SEC powwow that is happening. They're going Regina George, and she's just picking which one she wants to team up with to be mean girls to the rest of us, I suppose. This is probably going to be lost on a lot of college sports fans who are like, not keeping up with committee meetings or whatever this time of year. But this is your reminder. Football season never ends because, football pays for everything else. So, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is some of these things are happening in Dallas. And I guess first and foremost, probably the largest headline, college football playoff inclusion, automatic bids, revenue distribution. These are some of the big things that are being discussed.
Yeah. So what is happening? It started yesterday. Will continue today. The College Football Brain Trust is meeting in the Metroplex. I don't know whether it's in Las Colinas or Irving or Arlington or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But they're meeting, and really it's about, you got all the conference commissioners and the Notre Dame athletic director, and then they're talking about the future of the college football playoff, which ultimately that's the brain trust that really decides what's best for the sport. There's a lot of, context here that we need to offer up to people just so we're clear. But, they'd met back in Houston around the college football championship game. So this is, I don't know, what are we, a month removed or so, give or take, from that. They were supposed to kind of discuss, maybe vote on the future and like extensions or a media rights deal, all that. Well, they punted on it, and for reasons we're about to get into now. And because what you have is you have 2 years left on everybody's agreement with the college football playoff. So this postseason, which we're going to call the 25, and then the 26. Okay, so we're just going to go off of the years that they'll play the championship game in. How about that?
Yeah.
So January of 25 and then January, I guess, of 26. Those are going to be 12-team playoffs both years. That is as far as everybody has agreed to on media rights, on 12 teams, as far as expansion goes, all the stuff. So that's as far as we are out. And what raised everybody's eyebrows last Friday was the Big Ten and the SEC formed. They didn't use the word alliance, but hey, we're in lockstep here, and so that gets everybody's attention because they're saying we're not trying to, throw our weight around here, but everybody knows that if and when that they do, and they will, that they are the two most powerful dudes in the sport. Because their leagues now are 18 and 16 in number. I saw this the other day that of the viewing audiences for college football, 75% of the viewing audience follows basically about 20 teams, and they're all what will now be SEC and Big Ten teams other than like a Clemson and or Florida State, just as a sobering reminder here. Well,
yeah, blue blood consolidation.
There you go. So what these meetings are about, though, is like, okay, how are we distributing this money? Because the Pac-12 or Pac-2, that was part of the holdup in Houston on the meeting, and no vote, and like, okay, we're just going to punt because they're like, we want full distributions for the Pac-12. Guys, there's just two of you. Like we're not doing that. So they're trying to sort that out. I think how about this one? There's an SMU component here too. The ACC has added those Pac-12 schools and SMU, and basically I think they voted not to give SMU a full share because, dude, you're like group of 5. Like coming on up, you're not even taking any conference money for 7 years, and you want some playoff money? Like seriously? To which pissed off the ACC commissioner. He's like, wait a second, they're full-fledged members of the ACC, maybe in name only, not So there's all kind. Follow the money, is the whole dynamic here. But where to localize this? So I'm rambling, but to localize it, what I and other Big 12 or Texas Tech fans should be paying attention to is, I mean, do you stay at 12? Do you talk expansion? Do you stay with automatic conference bids? Do you whittle away at that? Does the Big 10 and the SEC say, hey, man, we're running this deal and we're not really giving you guys a lot of this. If you want to take it, great. If not, kick rocks. I mean, I could see any or all on the table here, but it's fascinating. And these decisions coming out will directly affect Texas Tech and or the Big 12 Conference as far as the future of this sport goes. And not that we get closure this week, but you're going to see a lot of chatter. So keep your head on a swivel, man.
And still remains the Big 12 Conference in the best seat possible outside of those two, is the way that I view it. Obviously, the Pac-12 has already been destroyed. The ACC is in such great standing that they got to scoop up Cal and whoever else and SMU. I mean, they didn't even put the whole ACC on their field. They're like, we'll send you an A. And if we make it through another year, we'll send you the CC to put there on the turf at Pony Stadium or whatever they got there in Dallas. So I still would sit here and say for the Big 12, I hope they're very judicious with their powder. Like expansion, still a possibility, and probably still justified or justifiable as far as some wisdom is concerned. But, just the running down the bargain bin aisle is not quite the route to go just yet. But these are going to be very, very interesting times. If there are any automatic bids still remaining for the Big 12 Conference, I still think you're in a winning seat whenever the dust is settled.
Yeah, because right now the playoff every year I think generates about, based on their media rights deal with ESPN, it generates about $460 million, give or take. 80% of that goes to the Power 5 schools. But that's ultimately what the discussion is going to be going forward is, okay, because around the playoff time or when the meeting was in Houston, there was a lot of reports, which I thought was funny, by ESPN people. They were reporting, hey, the college football playoff and deep discussions with ESPN to, a media rights deal to continue our partnership here and all that stuff. It was being reported on by Pete Thamel and Heather Dinich and all the folks that work for ESPN. Geez, I wonder where they got those tidbits. Maybe their own employer. Because
company-wide email.
Because before there was a discrepancy on, we don't want to just give one entity all of this power. Like, we can make more money if we split it, and we don't want to give one entity like full ownership over the sport. So before all the realignment stuff, this is just a year or 2 years ago, it was like, let's maybe talk to ESPN and Fox, and like let's like NFL do the thing with the NFL, like the AFC and NFC type deal, and kind of split it. We get more money this way. We share the wealth. No one media partner is in charge. But then, last month it was like, hey, man, we're negotiating a deal with ESPN. Nothing has been announced, though. I think that's as much a part of this. And geez, what do you think the SEC is going to be in favor of? They're going to want ESPN because that's who owns their rights and all that. So you just got to be careful here, all the folks in the room, on how to maneuver your way through it, because you end up with a long-term deal with ESPN only. And the SEC, I mean, and Sankey's already the most powerful guy there is. I mean, they could just kind of start dictating terms to everybody. It's just going to be kind of a fascinating deal. But yes, the Big 12, you obviously are rooting for still automatic bids. But yeah, keep an eye on media rights, what they agree to, what the holdups are. Can it be worked through? A lot of dynamics at play here in the Metroplex yesterday and today.
Look, the reality is you're not going to force some leagues with the likes of Rutgers and Indiana or Mississippi and Mississippi State to be treated like second-class citizens. I mean, how are you going to put them in a box? It just doesn't make any sense. Harumph! Harumph! I didn't get a harumph out of that guy. All right, Chris, no more time for an extra harumph here today. Enjoy the basketball game, and we're going to chew on it tomorrow for better or worse. Appreciate the time as always, man. We'll see you then.
Yeah, keep hope alive, everybody, and head on that swivel. Hopefully I'll see you tonight in Waco. Again, Foster's Waco for beer. I'll see you there if you can get in. Yeah, if you can get in. But, we'll talk to you in the morning.
Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.